Welcome to This Explainer. Look, I'm going to be completely straight with you today. We are officially taking off the kid gloves. As a financial advisor, I see way too many smart, incredibly hardworking people living on the absolute edge of financial disaster. And to be honest, it keeps me up at night. You might be feeling a bit of that anxiety yourself right now, kind of wondering how you'd handle a sudden layoff or a massive, out-of-nowhere car repair. Well, consider this explainer your urgent reality check, but also it's your ultimate rescue plan. We are going to build your financial firewall step by step, so you can finally stop worrying about all those what ifs and actually start sleeping soundly. We've got a ton of critical ground to cover, so let's get right to the numbers. Okay, let's dive right into this. 53%. According to recent data, 53% of Americans do not have the funds to cover a simple $1,000 surprise expense without going into debt. That means if the transmission blows or a random medical emergency pops up, more than half the country is immediately reaching for a credit card, one that probably charges somewhere between 20 to 29% interest. That is a terrifying place to be, and it's exactly the trap we're going to make sure you escape. Now, if you're in that vulnerable half, I really need you to hear this. I absolutely validate your anxiety, and you are so far from alone. 40% of adults have literally zero in emergency savings. Another 13% have something, but it's under $1,000. And look, there are massive systemic reasons for this. It is definitely not just about skipping your morning latte. Inflation hit 3.8% recently, and has just absolutely hammered household budgets across the board. In fact, that inflation pressure literally chopped the median emergency fund balance in the U.S. right in half, dropping it from $10,000 all the way down to just $5,000. So yes, the system is incredibly tough right now, but that is exactly why your personal financial safety net requires deliberate, immediate action on your part. Let's move to Section 1, the $1,000 myth. Which brings us to our very first major hurdle. We need to completely dismantle this old, super intimidating financial rule that is, frankly, setting people up for failure and massive disappointment today. For years, pretty much every popular money guru out there told you that step one was saving a starter emergency fund of exactly $1,000. And hey, 10 or 15 years ago, sure, that actually made some sense. But as this quote from a certified financial planner clearly points out, the old rule of having $1,000 quietly stopped working. Today, in 2026, $1,000 is barely a psychological first win. It's a fantastic starting line to prove to yourself that you can actually save, absolutely, but it is definitely not a safe stopping point. It just doesn't reflect the modern cost of living. And this brilliantly illustrates why. $1,200 to $1,300. That is the average cost of a single emergency room visit in the United States today. One bad sprained ankle or a sudden unexpected illness, and your entire $1,000 safety net just evaporates instantly. Heck, even calling a locksmith can run you up to $400. Emergency home repairs? Those average over $1,100. That old $1,000 benchmark gets visually crushed by the reality of just one single modern incident. To actually be protected today, you really need to aim for 3 to 6 months of essential bills, which usually sits somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 for the average household.
Moving on to Section 2, insurance, not an investment.
Now, I know hearing a target number like $10,000 or $20,000 can cause immediate panic. But before we talk about how to actually get there, we really have to reframe what this money is. Your emergency fund is insurance. It's not an investment. It is not supposed to grow dramatically. It's supposed to be a boring, completely untouchable firewall that protects your life. So the crucial point is knowing exactly where to park this money, because where you put it entirely dictates how safe it is. First off, absolutely do not keep it in your everyday checking account because you will accidentally spend it. Guaranteed. Second, no locked certificates of deposit or CDs. Emergencies do not politely wait for a 6-month maturity date. But most importantly, keep this money totally out of the stock market. I know some folks want every single dollar working for them, but emergencies often happen right when the economy tanks. Back in March 2020, the market dropped roughly 34% exactly when people were losing their jobs. If your emergency cash was invested then, you literally lost a third of it the very moment you needed it most. No way. So where does it go? The answer is a high-yield savings account, or HYSA. Think about it. A traditional big bank pays you a practically invisible 0.38 to 0.61%. But in HYSA, that pays between 4.00 and 4.55% right now. Let's do the math. Let's say you hit a $15,000 emergency fund. At a regular bank, you're earning about $77 a year. In an HYSA, you earn over $600 a year. It is the exact same money, completely protected by the exact same government FDIC insurance, meaning you cannot lose a dime even if the bank completely fails. But one account literally pays you hundreds of dollars just to be responsible. But listen, here is a massive advisor secret to make this actually work. You have to leverage the psychology of mental accounting. This is the principle where clearly labeling and physically separating your money totally changes your behavior towards it. You must open this high-yield savings account at a completely separate bank from your everyday checking account. The slight friction of having to log into a totally different app and wait a day or two for a transfer creates this incredibly powerful psychological barrier. Out of sight, out of mind, right? It physically prevents you from dipping into your survival fund for a quick lifestyle upgrade. All right, section 3, the step-by-step blueprint. Let's see how this builds together. So you know what it is, and you know exactly where to put it. Now, let's look at the highly actionable mechanical roadmap to start building this safety net from absolute zero. The very first thing you must do is stop looking at your total monthly spending, and instead, I want you to calculate only your survival expenses. Your lifestyle expenses, stuff like dining out, Netflix subscriptions, vacations, forget all of that for a minute. Your survival number is strictly the non-negotiables: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation to work, insurance, and your minimum debt payments. By focusing only on your survival expenses, that massive, super intimidating savings goal suddenly shrinks down to a much more manageable target. And now we put it into motion with these 4 steps. Step 1, calculate that survival number we just talked about. Step 2, set a 1-month mini milestone. Seriously, do not aim for $15,000 on day 1. Just aim to save 1 single month of survival expenses. Progress is absolutely your best motivator here. Step 3, automate your payday transfers. Have $50 or $100 automatically moved to your separate HYSA the exact same day you get paid. This completely removes willpower from the equation. You don't have to consciously choose to save, the system just does it for you. And finally, step 4, redirect windfalls, which brings us to an absolutely incredible acceleration tactic. If you really want to fast-track your firewall, you need to ruthlessly redirect sudden cash. Look at the average American tax refund. It's roughly $3,000. And usually that magically disappears into a new TV or a weekend trip, right? But by taking that single refund and dropping it straight into your high-yield savings account instead, you can instantly fund almost an entire month of survival expenses in one single move. The exact same thing goes for work bonuses or selling old stuff online. Use these windfalls to dramatically speed up your timeline without ever changing your daily budget. Of course, once the money is actually in there, the hardest part is not touching it. When you see thousands of dollars just sitting in an account, the temptation to use it for a vacation or a new laptop is intense. So I want you to use this specific psychological tool. Ask yourself this exact question before you transfer a single dime out of that account. If I lost my job tomorrow, would I regret having spent this money? If the answer is yes, and let's be honest, it almost always is unless it's a true actual emergency, you leave the money right where it is. So, we've covered the brutal realities, we've busted those outdated myths, and you now have the exact blueprint to build your financial firewall. The data tells us that 52% of Americans wish they had started saving sooner. So my question to you is, are you ready to stop wishing you started 5 years ago and actually become the person who starts today? The goal right now isn't perfection, it is progress. Even if you only set up an automated transfer for $20 from your next paycheck, you are building the habit. I challenge you to open that separate high-yield savings account today, figure out your survival number, and take back control of your financial peace of mind. Thanks for joining me in this explainer. Now go build that firewall.